Rain, 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 rain. Rain, 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 rain.
Okay, mic check. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 1, 2. Mhm. Testing, 1, 2.
Rain, rain,
And then we just send the link to Never Broke Nation when you get a second. Y'all are freaky. Yes, I'm typing these questions in here so I can copy and paste them. Coming in with us? Hey, girl. I wish you would influence so you can get pictures. Jamique's getting pictures and they're not in here. Yep, ready to go. Oh, I'm ready, but don't have it. Webinar. You sent the link? Oh, so I'm a little slow. Especially if I've been here all day. I'm good. Oh, people are responding to me. We can hear you. I can hear you. Yes. Yes. Yeah, they already chatting.
One. Oh my goodness. Good evening, everybody. I cannot begin to tell you how excited I am, how excited we all are, how hard we have been working preparing for this Make Safe Grow webinar series, our first webinar ever. And we are just so happy to be here with y'all tonight. So we got a lot to go over tonight, and I'm going to just kind of talk through a couple things, allow a few more people to kind of check in with us. But again, I am so excited that you're here this evening. And so what's crazy about this whole webinar and this opportunity is, and maybe it's because of our relationship with the Willie Moore Jr. show, y'all are checked in Maryland, in Texas, and Louisiana. Y'all, I saw someone in Minnesota, in North and South Carolina, Louisiana. Y'all are checking in from everywhere, absolutely everywhere. So we are going to be chatting with y'all. We're going to be talking to y'all. But I want you to know that this is your webinar series. This is your opportunity. So this is our time together collectively as this Never Broke Nation community, where we're going to have this 4-part discussion about money. So again, we're so excited to be working with you, and we're so excited to be walking this walk with you over the entire month of January. So let's talk about what we're going to do tonight, and then what we're going to do over the course of the entire month. So tonight, this is our fundamentals. This is our kind of like our 101 session. And so originally, we were going to just focus on our Make, Save, Grow series. And we really came up with the concept because of all of you. You know, all the questions that we got from y'all on social media, and then all the questions we got through the Willie Moore Jr. show. We constantly are hearing from you. And so we got all your questions, and we realized really what we thought you needed. Really where we thought we could meet your need, and again, be on this journey of finances with you. And so we designed this entire webinar series with all of you in mind. And so instead of us just focusing on this Make, Save, Grow, we decided to kind of take a step back. And we realized we needed to really cover the fundamentals. So tonight is webinar 101, and we're covering the FUND, the F-U-N-D fundamentals. So we're going to go over kind of the basics, but I promise you, no matter who you are, no matter how much you know about money, I promise you, you're going to learn something tonight. So we're going to start with the fundamentals. So next Wednesday, same time, we're going to begin with make. So we all want to make more money. We want to have more money to do the things that we want, have the life we want to lead. So next week, we're going to cover make. So the week after that, we're going to cover save, because I promise you, until you seriously begin to save money, your financial life is never going to change. So we're going to cover save the following week. And then our last week, of course, is growing money. So when we go into grow, I'm really excited about grow, because it's okay to save money, but if you aren't intentionally growing your money, you're not going to end up where you want to be financially. So again, make, save, grow. We're going to start with the fundamentals tonight, and we're going to get started. So let's start with a little housekeeping first. So I want you to remember, this time here tonight, this is completely your time. So we are a community. I want you to be transparent. I want you to be open. I don't want you to be embarrassed. And I want you to know that all of us here, no matter where we are in the country, whether you're in the room with us tonight, or if you are in Texas, we're going to walk this journey over this entire 4 weeks. So, but we need you to interact with us. So we have a live chat. So on your mobile devices, if you're with us on a phone tonight, what I want you to do is select the live chat bar at the bottom of your screen if you want to interact with us. So we want your questions, we want your comments. And so Brandy, who is part of our Never Broke Nation team, is going to be manning all your questions. So we're going to answer some of them in the chat, and then a lot of them we're going to actually handle them in the room. So get your questions ready. And so for those of you who are on a desktop computer, now you're going to see the chat box is located on the top right of your screen next to the video. So again, get your questions ready, get ready to interact with us. We are so excited again about working with you. Now, in the event you are having any technical difficulty, we want you to email us. So at neverbrokenation@gmail.com. So we have 2 people on our team right now just focused on you. If you have any technical questions, sound issues, you can't get in, any problems you're having at all, please let us know, because we want to get you right up so we can get going with the webinar, okay? So we are excited and we're ready to get started. So let's start with me. Who am I? So I am again Janai Thornton, and I think I've gotten to meet or interact with a lot of you, or you all have gotten introduced to me really through the Willie Moore Jr. Show. And so for the last 2 years, I've been the financial expert on the Willie Moore Jr. Show and co-host with Willie for Money Monday. And so that's where I think I've gotten introduced to a lot of you and heard a lot of your questions and your stories. And so that's a small part of what I do. What our entire team really does, we're really accountants, but specifically in the entertainment industry. So really for the last 22 years, I have exclusively served the entertainment community. And so we primarily work with talent. And so there are gonna be artists that you've heard of. We do a lot of hip hop, urban type music. So we work with veterans like Ludacris for, actually this is our 22nd year working with Chris, to some of the new artists that hopefully just mostly the young people are listening to, like the Uzis and the Khalids and the Yachties. We've had an opportunity again over the last 22 years to work in that community. But what we really noticed, and part of my journey is I knew that just serving that part of the community just wasn't enough, because I knew how much I struggled with money. And I really struggled initially because I had my first child in college. And so we just kind of got off to a different start. And so at 21, right after my junior year of college, I had my first son. I was 21, my husband was 23 at the time. And so we came to Atlanta struggling. But the crazy thing is we were struggling so much financially, but we were both working. So it's not like we weren't working, we weren't doing our part, but we were just already behind. We were already behind. And so I think what's been interesting to me on this money journey is when you work with celebrities, you work with people who have a lot of money, we have an opportunity to work with people like you. People always assume that we have money or that we've always had money. And there was a time that we really, really struggled. And so that's why I'm excited, really excited about next week too, so we can talk about the make part of the journey. Because again, I know what it is to really struggle, but I also know what it is to get on the other side and to begin to make more money. So fundamentals tonight, I'm not gonna get ahead of myself talking about make for next week. All right, so the Never Broke Nation. So I know y'all have been following us. Hopefully y'all have been following us and watching our content. And so what really excites me about Never Broke Nation, it is not just like this little cute saying. Never broke is really, it's a promise. It's a commitment. And it's a commitment that you are making to yourself. It's a decision where you are saying, under no circumstances ever again, I will not be broke anymore. And I mean ever again. And what's crazy about it is, if you pay attention to your life, you'll notice that you know people who don't have any money challenges at all. And it's not just because they've inherited a ton of money. So I just want you to know that it is a commitment, it is a promise, it's a commitment that you can make to yourself. So with the Never Broke Nation, our mission is to help and inspire our people to make, save, and grow their money. And we do that a lot of different ways. We do it by teaching like this. We do it through radio, like the Willie Moore Jr. Show. And then we also have the opportunity to do it through creating content. And so I'm hoping y'all have seen some of our video content before. And we have a library of content. We over in just 17 alone, we produced over more than 100 videos. And I want you to not just look at our stuff because I think it's cute or we work hard at it, but it's really to help you. It's really our opportunity to talk to you about money, walk the journey with you about money in a very unique and a different way. Because most of you haven't seen people talk about money in the way that we talk about money before. And so that's what we want to do. We want to begin to have the conversation and we want to begin to have the focus, because we will spend time together doing everything but talking about money. So I want to introduce you kind of to the Never Broke Nation crew. So that's the people you see up on the slide. So that's Chris, obviously me, Brandy and Alicia. So Brandy's the one who's on the chat with y'all tonight. And we're the Never Broke Nation. But again, I want you to remember and think about the commitment and the promise of what that really means, because that's what it is. You make that commitment to yourself, believe that that's possible for you, and we're going to walk that Never Broke journey with you. So I want to show you one of our videos that we work really hard on that we're really proud of. We'll show that really quick, only about 60 seconds, and then we're going to get into the rest of the session.
What's up, girl? Hey, girl, where you at? What do you mean where I'm at? You know I never miss a Wednesday nail cut.
Girl, I'm at home doing my nails right now. I cannot be giving them people my money every 2 weeks. Yo, where we going? Let's go get something to eat. Oh, I have a taste for Ruth Chris. My treat. Y'all. Yo, where we going? Let's go get something to eat. Oh, I got coupons. Where y'all want to go? For real? Girl, no.
Look who got that refund check. Oh, wow.
Wait, Chris, didn't you get your refund too?
Yes, but girl, I paid off solid money. Yeah. Hello, this is Sally Mae. Your student loan is in default. Would you like to set up a payment plan?
What?
Hey, welcome to the good life.
So we hope y'all enjoyed that, but we want you to watch our content. We want you to share our content, and we want you to follow us, but we really, really want you to share it, because again, what a great opportunity to have some very unique, different conversations about money in a way that we've never, ever, ever talked about money before. And then also too, I want to inspire all of you entrepreneurs, because everybody, pretty much everyone that you've seen a part of our team, we're accountants, and we made a decision that we were going to learn how to create content, and we've learned how to do it. So I'm not saying it has been easy, but it's been so worth it. And again, we're hoping you're enjoying it, but I really hope that you're inspired by it, and it's going to help you get where you want to be financially. So please follow us. You can follow us at Never Broke Nation, and of course at Janai Thornton as well. All right. So let's talk about what we're going to do tonight, all right? So again, remember, this is fundamentals. This is 101. This is the beginning. So I'm excited to start here, because we need to cover a few things so then we can really hit the ground running for the rest of the month. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to go over the assessment. And what that really means is, where are you financially, like, for real? Not what you think in your head, not what you've been thinking or feeling. Like, where are you, like, for real financially? And a lot of us, honestly, we can't answer that question. So we're going to start with the assessment. So the second thing that we're going to talk about tonight is credit. So, you know, when you're thinking about money, how are you going to talk about your personal finances without at least talking about credit? Because it is a main pillar. It's a main part of who you are financially. So we're definitely going to talk about credit. Third thing we're going to talk about tonight is budgeting. So budget is not a bad word. This is the one area, I swear, people treat budgeting like it is the plague, but we're going to spend some time on it. Some people in here are saying, yes, that's me. But I want to give you some tools about budgeting, and I want to give you a different perspective to think about budgeting, because I promise you, when you understand the why of it, then you're going to actually want to budget. And then the last thing we're going to cover tonight is debt, because when you think about your finances, like, how can you not focus on money? You can't focus on the fundamentals if you're not at least going to talk about debt. Okay? All right, so let's get into where you are. So I was telling some of the people on the Never Broke Nation team about this young lady, a listener of the Willie Moore Jr. show, who reached out to me through Facebook over the summer, just like desperate. And you could tell, you could feel the anxiety. And she's like, you know what? I am behind on my credit card payments. I'm behind on my student loan payments. She was behind on her son's tuition, really under a lot of pressure. And she said, I think I'm getting ready to file for bankruptcy. And so I responded to her via Messenger and Facebook, and I said, so how much do you owe everybody? Like, how much do you owe your creditors? And she said, I don't know. But I'm thinking, I know she knows she's behind, but you're going to file for bankruptcy, but you can't even tell me, like, who do you owe what to? So I told her, I said, listen, only thing I want you to do is make a list of everybody you owe, a list of all your creditors, how much you owe them, and how behind you are, and what your monthly payments are. Just write out that list. I'm not going to tell you to do anything else. So, and I said, once you finish that list, then reach back out to me. And then I thought about her maybe about a week later, and I hadn't heard back from her. And I reached out to her and I said, well, I hadn't heard back from you. Like, what's the deal? And she was like, oh, Janai, I'm good. I'm like, wait a minute. Last week you're going to file bankruptcy. How are you going to be good this week? And she said, well, once I saw it, I could tell that I could really handle it. And so she made the decision without me even telling her. Once I saw it, she's like, oh, I contacted my creditors. I worked out an alternate payment plan. I'm going to get caught up. She needed about 3 or 4 months. She said, I'm good. But the power of seeing it for the very first time, she finally knew where she was. And so that's why we have to start, where are you for real? You cannot start out 2018 saying, I'm going to do this. I'm going to accomplish this. You can't tell me where you are financially. It's like you want to drive to California, but are you starting in Georgia or are you starting in Texas? Like, where are you literally for real? So let's talk about where you are. Okay. So hopefully most of you got this email from me. It came from me personally, and this is our 4-page assessment. So this is just a guide. This is not the Bible. You do not have to use this, but I wanted you to kind of have an idea of what you need to do, what you need to kind of focus on initially before you just run out here and start working on your financial goals. So we're literally going to take page by page. We're going to go over it, and you can begin to send your questions to Brandy. I'd love to hear from you because I want to know what questions you have about the assessment. If you haven't completed it yet, don't worry about it. But for those of you who have, definitely want to hear from you. So let's get into page 1 of the assessment. First section is simply your credit score. So I just want you to get your score. I don't care where you go. You can go to Credit Karma. Maybe you're getting it off of one of your credit card statements, which is common now. They're putting it on there. Just put your credit score there. Box 1. Very simple. Whatever you do, do not pay for your score, though. I don't want you paying for it. All right, that's box 1. Next line, date you last reviewed your full credit report. We're always so pressed about our score. We're not even looking at our full report anymore. So I want you to indicate the last time you've actually looked at your full credit report. All right. So critical thing to do, because that's where you really find out where the errors and problems are by what's on the report. All right, that first full block is I want you to think about what you really want to accomplish financially in 2018. So please keep in mind, there are not 10 blocks here. There are 3, and that's very intentional. We are not going to overcommit. I want you to pick 2-3 things maximum that at the end of 2018, you would feel really, really, really good about if you got these things done. So remember, this is not a long laundry list. We're going to focus on 2 to 3 things maximum. That's it. And the last box of page 1 is, what are you financially worried or concerned about? I want to know, but I need you to know, is anything really keeping you up at night? Are you stressed about anything? Are your kids getting ready to go to college? You think you don't have enough money for retirement? Like, whatever it is, I want you to think about that. So I'd love to hear from y'all about any of your financial goals. So Brandy, did you have anybody check in with you about any of their financial goals? Anybody share anything with you?
I did. Someone, TMB Clark, shared a goal that they would like help with separating their personal and business finances.
Oh, can't wait to talk. You said what else?
Creating a budget and save.
Okay, I can't wait to talk about that business and personal separation there. Yes, for sure. Who else? What else did you get?
Also, we heard from Joyce, and she said that she would like to bulk up her emergency fund and save for retirement.
Okay. So, which I'm really feeling good that y'all have really put some thought into this already, but share. We want to know what your goals are, what you're focused on. And I also want to know what you're worried about too. Would you please share that with us as well? Okay, now the next page, this is where the rubber begins to hit the road just a little bit. I want you to, again, this is a guide. You don't have to use this, but I want you to accumulate somewhere everything you own. These are your assets, everything you own. I don't care if you have nothing but a checking account, nothing but. And you could own 30 properties wherever you are. What do you own? These are your assets. And have you ever seen it written out all in one place ever before? It is so important that you actually get to see it. I want you to physically see it. So if you haven't completed it, what I want y'all to do is make the commitment to yourself to schedule time to actually complete this. Just make the commitment. You're going to have to make an appointment with yourself to do it. Maybe you can do it all at once, or you're going to have to break it up over a couple of days. But make a commitment and a promise to yourself to get this done. So everything you own. Then I want you to take all your assets and add it up at the bottom. Know the grand total. So if you have assets like a house or a car, I want you to put the fair market value. Don't subtract. Please don't subtract what you owe on your loan. I want you to see the full value of all your assets. So that's what you own. Everything you own. All right, page 3. Now it's really starting to get interesting here. This is what it costs for you to live, your monthly expenses. This is what it costs to be you. This is what it costs to run your household. This is what it costs to run your family. So this is your housing, your food, your personal expenses, utilities, transportation, everything on the list. Now remember, this is just the start. You can add or change anything that you need to add or change. But I want you to, again, I want you to see what it looks like. I need you to absolutely see what it looks like. So you can do this. This is the traditional, we can call it traditional old school way of writing it out. Or another thing that you could do is there are tons of apps or programs you can use that can help you aggregate all this information, like Mint, for example. So we're going to give you some of the tools in a little bit. But I want you to write down all your monthly expenses. Don't lie to yourself and leave anything else out. So I can't wait to see what some of your comments and your questions are about this. So I have a quick question for everybody. Quick question. So do you have any idea, if you think about just your housing, what percentage of your income is supposed to be allocated to housing? Anybody have any idea what that is? What percentage that should be? How much? You said what? Someone said 10%. What's the total? What else? Any other
I have
guesses?
a few answers from the chat.
Okay, what are they saying?
Nakia Wright said 20%.
Okay,
Dema Boy said 40%.
okay,
Cornelia Small said 30%.
30%. And then the prize goes to Cornelius. It is, your housing should never exceed 30% of your gross monthly income. Should never exceed it. So if your gross monthly income is $5,000, then your housing expenses should not be more than $1,500 a month. So remember, this is just a guide. This is not an actual, just to give you some point of reference. So you never want to exceed that 30%, all right? So just pay attention to that when you're putting these expenses together. All right, now we're gonna move on to page 4. So page 4 is a little different. So this is a continuation. These aren't just your monthly expenses. These are your debts. So debts are different than monthly expenses. So these are like your credit cards, your mortgage, your student loans, anything that has a outstanding balance to it. And so on this sheet, if you notice, you have 2 sections. You're going to put your monthly payments, but you're also going to list the entire balance that you owe. And I want you to write the full balance down, because a lot of times we don't even want to look at that. We don't want to pretend that we owe $100,000 in student loans, or that we owe $50,000 in credit cards, or we owe $200,000 on our house. I want you to look at the total. And I want you to be okay with the fact that if one of your goals is to be completely debt-free, How are you going to get there if you don't even know how much you owe? So this is your starting point. Okay, so there's 3 boxes underneath. So one is your total monthly take-home pay. I want you to write in that first small box under the debts how much you're going to bring home every single month. This is after taxes. This is what's going to hit your account. Put your total in there. The next box, which you're going to include, is just your total monthly expenses. So you're going to take that from both sheets. You're going to take that from page 3, the monthly expenses like your housing, transportation, and all of that. Then you're going to add it to the monthly expenses from your debts, your monthly car payments, your student loans, your mortgage, whatever that is. You're going to add those 2 numbers together. That's going to give you your total monthly expenses, all the money that's going out. All right? So you take your take-home pay minus your monthly expenses, and then you should see what you have left over. And some of y'all actually submitted these forms to me before, and I got all these comments like, I don't never have as much money left over as the paper says. And you know why you don't? It's because you're not really tracking all your expenses for real. That's why you should have a certain amount of money left over, but there's something that you're not factoring in, and that's what your issue is. Okay, so now what? So now that we've gone through this, like, what do you need to do? What is your next step? Couple things that I need you to do. Number 1, if you have not completed this assessment, like I said before, you need to literally schedule the day and time when you're going to do it. And the other thing I want you to do, if you don't want to do it by hand, that's fine. I want you to identify the tool, the Excel spreadsheet, whatever you're going to use to actually help you do it. But I need you to plan and schedule the actual doing. And so for those of you who have the opportunity to do it already, I need you to do something else. Now that you've had a chance to look at everything, did it change your initial goal? Do you need to shift and reprioritize a few things? So let's get real clear about what we're going to focus on, all right? So any questions? Brandy, I know you got to have a couple questions out there from the chat.
I do. Cynthia wants to know, how do you determine the current fair market value of your house and car?
Okay, so that's a great question. So if you want to figure out the current fair market value of your car, there's a great website that you can go to, which is KBB, KellyBlueBook.com. And very simple, you're just going to put in the make, model, and year of your car. Voila, they're going to do some formula. They're going to ask you some other questions. Is it in good condition? Some other things, and then they're going to give you an estimated value of your car. And for your house, you can use something like Zillow. You can put in your address, and again, it's going to give you, they're pulling all that from property tax records, give you an idea of the value of your home. What else you got, Brandy?
Bimma Boy says, filling this out, should we consider filling this out given our spouse's debt and income as well? I would assume yes.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's a great question. So you want to combine them. If you are a combined household, you want to put everything together. Even if you have a system of one person is paying for one thing, another person is paying for something else, all of that income is coming into the household and those expenses are being paid. So yes, you definitely want to combine them together. You got anything else, Brandy?
No, that's it.
You're good. Okay. All right, so this is a new concept we want to introduce to y'all. So we all have a calendar. I mean, God knows we all live by our phones, personally and professionally. It runs our entire lives, our doctor's appointments or personal appointments, lunch, what we have to do at work. So have you ever thought about having a money calendar before, though? And so how interesting it would be if you were able to lay out over the year what you need to do when financially. So I want you to really consider adding financial things to your calendar for 2018. And you're going to put things in your calendar like checking your credit report twice a year. Like I check mine, my birthday month, which is March, and then 6 months later in September. Okay. Then you can also put things in there like you need to be talking to your insurance agent once a year. When are you going to do that? We definitely want you to add that to your money calendar. You need to sit down with your HR representative at work. I suggest twice a year, but at a minimum once a year. How are you going to remember to do all of this stuff? You have to have a way to remember that. And so, Brandy, did you have any comments or questions from people who, things that they want to add to the money calendar at all?
No, I haven't. Anything.
None at all. So I got a couple other suggestions from folks. They said, like, filing their taxes, completing their children's financial aid forms. Like, there's so many things that you need to keep up with. What about when your cell phone contract expires? What about when your cable contract expires? You can manage all that in a calendar. So I want y'all to be very proactive and use that calendar for sure. All right? We're good on the calendar. So again, I want you to add this to your to-do list for sure. So obviously this is the old school version of a money calendar, but just to give you all a visual of what you can keep, what you need to be tracking and keeping up with. Another thing that we suggest that you add to your money calendar would be like your money meeting. Like, when is your committed time to sit down and pay your bills? Review what your balances are. See what you got going on. My husband talks about it all the time. I check my bank balances every single day. I do it every single day, business and personal, every single day. And I'm not just like logging on real quick. Like, I'm logging on and I'm looking at what's going on in my account. I literally do it every single day. And so these are some of the habits that I want you to develop so you're more focused and more intentional about your finances. All right? All right. So any questions about the money calendar? You had any comments or questions about that, Brandy? You're good? Okay, you're good. All right. So now we're going to transition to credit. Y'all ready to talk about a little credit this evening? All right. Credit. So my mother was an educator. So obviously she had a very fixed income. And it's funny though, although she never had a whole lot of money, she was very serious about her credit, extremely serious. And she always said, protect your credit with your life, literally protect it with your life. And she is the one who really impressed upon me that credit is more valuable than money is. So that's why we're covering credit first. You all have got to master the credit section because it determines so many things in our financial life. All right. So, you literally want to be intentional about taking care of your credit. But what does that mean? First of all, that means checking your credit score regularly. And we talked about Credit Karma. So a lot of people say Credit Karma, the score is not accurate. Remember, TransUnion, the credit reporting agency, owns Credit Karma. So that's not your Equifax score. It's not your Experian score. It's just a piece of your credit report. It's just a piece of it. So another place you can go to check your credit report is annualcreditreport.com. Now, this is the only place that the federal government actually endorses, the only place. Now, you're not going to get your score, but you will get your full comprehensive credit report. So you definitely want to use annualcreditreport.com as a resource. So again, make sure you're reviewing your entire credit report, not just your score. Again, at a minimum, twice a year, let's check your report and that score as well. All right, so let's talk about this, the credit scores. So they go from very poor, which is 300, all the way to exceptional, which is 800 to 850, 800 to 850. So I guess we kind of all know where we fit in this. So I have a question for y'all. So what is, generally speaking, what is the minimum credit score you have to have right now to buy a house? On average, just an average about what? What'd you say? Okay, close, 650. Yes, Brandy, you got some answers?
Yes, Nakia Wright said 650. Whitney Malcolm said at least a 580 for FHA loans, but typically 640. So I see 600, 620, 580.
Right. And generally speaking, you're right. It's right about 640. But you know what's crazy about that? 640 is only fair. That's not even good credit. So you just need fair. That's decent. You need decent credit to make one of the largest purchases of your life, which is a house. So for those of you who think that you can't buy, can never buy, don't even want to hear that, 640, obviously I want you to strive for that 850, because obviously the higher your credit score, the lower your interest rate generally will be, meaning that you're going to spend less. But again, 640 fair to get you in the game for getting a house. All right, so what's the fastest way to actually improve your credit score? For those of you who are trying to get that score up quicker, so I want to give you kind of a few different techniques, just a few different ones. Number one, I want you to pay your bills before the closing date, not the due date. So we know the due date is the date that our bill is actually due. The closing date is when our statements actually close. I want you to get in the habit of paying again before the closing date. And so we have to realize payments, our payment history, that's 35% of our credit score. That's a full 35%. So that's why you don't want to play with them payments. You definitely want to pay not on time. What we're saying is pay early. Going to help you bump that score up faster. Another thing that you can do to increase your credit score quickly is to ask your credit card company to increase your limit, but don't use it. Ask them to increase your limit, because again, the second largest part of your credit score is your utilization. So what you're doing now is now you have access to more money, but you're not actually using it at all. So again, payments is 35%, utilization is 30%. So take advantage of it if you can. But again, the key is you cannot use that additional credit. You cannot use that at all. And then last is don't use more than 10% of your credit. And what I mean by that, I don't mean credit overall. So if you have credit cards, try not to carry a balance of more than 10% of what you're able to charge. And so let me just do some quick math from you. And so I know it's a little lower than what you're used to people saying, because let's assume you have a credit card and your limit is $1,000, right? You'll hear most experts say, well, keep your balance under 30%, which would be under $300, right? That would be 30%. But I'm suggesting something a little different. What I'm saying is keep your outstanding balance less than 10%, or at 10%, which is $100. Because remember, that all ties into the utilization. So I'm talking about the balance that you actually carry. Keep it low. That's going to, again, help your credit score go up much faster for those of you who are trying to get it up quick. So I hope those tips help. All right. So what do you need to do now? We're going to summarize after each chapter here, each section. I want you to make that commitment, know in your calendar exactly when you're going to check your credit score. You have to know when you're going to do that. The other thing too is I want you to be very intentional thinking about your payment strategy. What do you need to do to bump that score up if that's a challenge or an issue for you? And if it's not an issue for you, please share these tips with someone else, because I promise you it's going to help people. You don't realize just by changing how quickly you pay is going to help your score go up. All right, Brandy, you have any questions for us out there?
I have a few questions.
Okay.
Okay. Nakia says, what do you suggest about closing out cards after paying them off?
Okay. So I have mixed thoughts about it. That's why I'm pausing. Generally speaking, if you pay a card off and then you close the account, your score is actually going to go down. It's going to go down. And so particularly if you're closing an account that you've had for like a really long time, that's going to even have more impact on your score. So if you're thinking about protecting your score, then I don't know if I would close the account. Now, the however part of that is if you, like I said, know thyself. If you know you don't need to have access to that credit anymore, it's going to get you in trouble, it's going to be a problem, you definitely need to close it. It's worth the bump and the decrease in your score just to kind of protect yourself from yourself. Thank you for that question, Nakia. What else you have, Brandy?
Whitney wants to know, how can you
improve your payment history? So in order to improve your payment history, you literally have to do the opposite of what you've been doing, which is paying slow, paying late, or not paying at all. You've got to increase your payment. So when we get to the debt section, I'm going to give you some specific strategies on how to pay your debt off a little faster. So if you can hold on to the end, I've got a few techniques for you, but you've got to pay on time, or better yet, you've got to pay early. Any more questions on this section?
Nikki wants to know if the credit card company charges for an increase, then is it worth it to request an increase?
Well, you know, I think that depends. I'm not sure what she needs to clarify what she means by charge for it. The only thing I've seen credit card companies do, when I've seen people negotiate like lower interest rates when you're trying to get your debt down, I've seen them actually lower the amount of credit that you actually have access to. I haven't seen them actually charge you for it, but I guess it would be, I'd be wondering, what is the cost? What is the cost of getting that? Because I'm referring to asking for more credit from a credit card company specifically. So yes, if there's a cost, I would definitely factor that into my decision. That's for sure. You good on the questions back there?
Yes.
You're good. Okay. All right. So let's go to budget, everyone's favorite topic. So I had a phone conversation over the weekend with one of our very close family friends. And this is actually the family that I first lived with when I moved to Atlanta. And her name is Pat, and Pat was telling me how she's been working for this extremely wealthy family for about the last 15 years. Like, these people sold their company for about $100 million about 20 years ago. Like they got $100 million 20 years ago. And in 2017, they filed for bankruptcy. It's like, how can you have $100 million? And now they're literally bankrupt. Like, they've had to sell all their houses, all their land, all their property. Like, they're downsizing, and they have literally filed for bankruptcy. And I can tell you exactly why it happened, because they didn't have no budget. So if you can't manage $1,000 a month, $10,000 a month, $100,000 a month, I promise you, you cannot manage $100 million. And that's how it happens, because budget just means you have an awareness. You know exactly what is coming in. You know exactly what is going out. A budget just means you are paying attention to what is happening. That's all it is. Because people think budget means I can't spend what I want to spend. I got to give up this. I have to give up that. Budget just means it's not that you have to stop spending, but you will begin to spend very differently. And that's completely different. So think about, again, budget as paying attention to what you are doing, okay? The way you spend your money really just shows what your priorities are. How you spend your money is all about priorities. You give me your bank or credit card statements, I promise you I could tell you what's important to you. Just like this, I could tell you what's important to you. So budget. And the cool thing is, if you go through this exercise, what we did with the assessment, you're already like halfway there to budget, because it is what you have coming in and exactly what you have going out. That's all it is. And then setting some boundaries for yourself, not restrictions, just some guidelines, And so what are some budget tools you can use? What's the best tool? People ask me that all the time. The best tool is whatever tool you will use for real. Whatever you could commit to using over and over and over again, that's the best tool for you. Again, I'm a little partial. I like Mint. And I think I like Mint because they're owned by Intuit, which is the company that owns TurboTax and QuickBooks. I know most of us are familiar with those names, but you can use whatever you want. You can use Pocket Guard. You can use Excel. You can use Dave Ramsey's envelope method, cash in the envelope. You can use whatever you want as long as you're actually going to use it. So please use a tool. Now, another reason why I really, really like Mint is because you can set alerts for yourself. So what if you say, I only want to spend $100 this month eating out, or I only want to spend $200 shopping? It will tell you when you're getting close. It'll say, wait a minute, you're getting close, or wait a minute, you've actually gone over. So that's why I like Mint. I think it's a really, really good tool for that. Now you have to be comfortable with, because Mint is going to aggregate all of your accounts. So if you have an account at Bank of America, Wells Fargo, it will put all of those accounts together, even your credit card accounts. It summarizes all your data together. Like Morehouse, you get to see all of your stuff at once. And again, that's powerful. It's just powerful when you see it. It will help change your behavior for sure. So please check out a budget tool. We do not get paid to endorse Mint at all. But I want you to, again, use anything that you're going to consistently use over and over again. Okay. So from a budget perspective, what do y'all need to be focused on now? Just a couple key points. Please make a commitment to your tool, your process, whatever you're going to do, to how you're going to keep up with what's coming in and what's going out. You have to have a system. You must have a system, okay? So I want you to go through the process of figuring that out. And then I need you to schedule the time. The second part of it is, when are you going to begin to use it? When you're going to set it up? When are you going to use it? You have to, that's all part of your money calendar. Maybe you're not going to start in January. Maybe you're not going to start till March or April. That's fine, but you got to make the commitment to doing it, because I promise you, when you see these numbers, you'll have the information you need, which is going to help you change your behavior. All right. The other thing too, last point about budget. I want you to begin to factor in saving like it's an expense. So I want you to treat saving like it is your rent, like it's your car insurance. I want you to treat it like one of them bills, like hell or high water, like you always pay. Make a commitment. And so if you move saving up to the top of your list, like housing, like food, then you are going to begin to save. If you put it down at the bottom of the list, you deal with it after you paid for everything else, then you're never going to save. And so we'll talk about some of those techniques when we get to the save portion in about 2 weeks. But I want you to build saving actually into your budget. Okay? So Brandy, you have any questions on saving?
Yes. Bema Boy asked a great question.
Yeah.
Where do you begin with the budget?
Where you begin with the budget. Okay. And so sometimes people actually need some help with that, because sometimes you can get so caught up in your own stuff, like you don't even know where to begin because you have so much debt. And so we're going to talk about it in a minute when we get to the debt section, where I want you to go to get some help. And so I'm going to mention it now, but we'll talk about it a little bit more. I want you to go to nfcc.org, which is the National Foundation for Credit Counseling. Sometimes you just have to have someone intervene and help you work it all out. So nfcc.org. First, I want you to go to their website, check them out, check out their reviews, any feedback about them. Then I want you to actually give them a call, because they're a debt, budget, and credit counseling nonprofit organization. So that's what I would suggest for them to do for sure. What else you got?
We also heard from Erica, who wants to know, how do you budget if you have inconsistent income?
Okay. Oh, that's a really good question. So for those of you, I'm getting an amen in the peanut gallery here. For those of us who have inconsistent income, those of us who are entrepreneurs, who are in transition, what I want you to do is I want you to create your budget based on your lowest month, not your highest. Because what I see people do, particularly people who get paid by commission, they're basing their budget on that large commission check. But you don't know when that's going to happen again. So if you base your budget on a lower amount, when that extra money comes in, then you're like, whew, I'm good. But you can't live off of that high number when your income does this. So please base it on a lower number. And those of you who have very inconsistent income, I want you more than anybody, you're going to have to be more intentional, more strategic about saving, because you have to have a backup plan when things don't go as you plan for them to go. Any more questions out there, Brandy?
One more question.
Okay.
Does working with a credit counseling agency decrease your credit score, and does it make lenders reluctant to work with you?
Okay, that's a good question. So what generally is going to happen, if you're working with someone like an nfcc.org, you will generally get a notation on your credit report. So that is true. Your creditors are going to know, it's going to be a notation that you're working with them. So does this mean that you'll never be able to buy another house or car? If folk are filing for bankruptcy in less than a year, buying another car, I've seen people within 2 years buy a house. I would not allow that to stop me from getting some professional help from someone. The other reason why, too, I like nfcc.org is they'll be able to help you negotiate potentially lower interest rates for your debts, a new payment plan. Like, you've got to get some help. So don't run from the help. Don't let that scare you from the help. Okay? Okay. All right. Our last and final topic for this evening. I hope y'all still got some energy. Thank y'all for all your questions. Please keep sending them to us. But we got to talk about debt. Okay? We have to talk about debt. And then we're going to wrap up for the evening and talk about how we're going to prepare for the Make session next week. Okay. So let's get into debt. So we just kind of talked about this. What do you do if you're in trouble? And what trouble looks like is what we just described. You're already behind, typically more than 1 month, and you have several creditors calling you. You're in collection. Your debt has been sold to someone else. That is officially you are in trouble. And what I want you to do if you are financially in trouble is please stay in contact with your creditor. Because see, most of us don't want to talk to them at that point. And what I really want you to do is before you get in trouble, if you've had a sickness, you lost your job, please contact your creditor before you're late. A lot of times they're so willing to say, well, hey, you can skip the payment this month. You can pay a lower payment. We'll tack it on to the end. Please contact them before, but stay in contact with them. And I want you to take really, really, really good notes when you're communicating with them. Date and time you called, who you talked to, you got to have really, really good notes. And then the next thing I want you to do is what we already talked about, which is nfcc.org. Check them out and see if that's potentially a good source for you. Okay, so here's our next question for the rest of y'all. So do you think you should pay off debt first or save money first? And then if you should save first, like how much should you have saved first? So I want to know what everyone's saying out there about that, Brandy. What are they saying?
So far, most of them are saying pay off your debt first.
Okay.
And Cornelia said both.
Okay. He said Cornelius couldn't decide, so he picked both. All right. So this is what we suggest. We say that you save a minimum of $1,000 first before you begin to pay off your debt. Okay. So what we're saying is make a commitment, a minimum. $1,000 is a minimum. The maximum that I'd like for you to potentially shoot for is you need to have 3 to 6 months of expense money saved. But if you're someone who's had a head start at saving, you're doing good with saving, I'd be shooting for that 3 to 6 months. If you've been struggling saving, shoot for the $1,000, and then you need to get really, really focused on that debt. Because I promise you some life is going to happen. You need to have some money set aside so you don't get back in debt again. That's why you want to save a little bit of money first. All right. All right. So let's talk about paying down debt. We got a little ways to go. Y'all been doing good. Keep sending us your questions. We want to hear from you. But we're going to talk about a few strategies on paying down some debt. So the first thing we did, what we talked about, you got to figure out how much you owe and who you owe it to. It's that same list. That's page 4 of the assessment. Start with that first. Okay, now we have to make a decision. What order are we going to pay this debt in? What order are we going to pay this debt in? And we have a couple of different choices. We can pay the smallest debt first, or we can pay the debt with the highest interest rate first. So there are two different methods. So one is the snowball method. That is us paying the smallest debt first. And then again, the ladder or laddering method, you're paying off the debt with the highest interest rate first. But let's talk about how that really works. So what you're going to do is you've got the list of your bills. You are going to make the minimum payment on all of your bills, except for that one bill that you've chosen with the smallest balance. And you're going to pay as much as you can extra towards that one bill. But you can't miss the minimum payments, because remember, payments is the key to your credit score. That's 35% of your score. So again, you're going to pay the minimum on everything, that one bill. I don't care if you have a $50 balance or a $5,000 balance. It's the one with the smallest balance. You're going to pay as much as you can extra till you pay that one bill off. Once you pay that bill off, then you move to the next bill with the smallest balance, and you pay extra towards that one. Okay, so again, that's the snowball method. That means your snowball is getting bigger as you begin to pay these debts down. So ladder method is very similar, but you just are picking a different debt. You've decided to pay the debt off with the highest interest rate first. So same thing, you're going to pay the minimum payment on all of your other debts, but then the one with the highest interest rate, you're actually going to pay extra towards that one. All right, and you're going to pay as much as you can where you can still live and survive. Once you pay that bill off, now you're going to move to the next one, and you're going to keep that going. Again, that's the ladder method. So which one should you choose? Whichever one you prefer. I know a lot of people like the snowball method because they feel like, oh, I can make some progress. I can get that bill done. I can get that bill done. I want you to do whatever you can actually feel comfortable with and that you could commit to. That's the right decision for you. And so here again, there are tons of tools. There's a lot of technology. There are apps you can use. There's websites you can use. Student Loan Hero, Unbury Me, Changed. I'm not going to say, I don't care what you use. I just want you to use whatever you're actually going to use, whatever your preference is, whatever you can commit to using. That's absolutely the right tool for you. All right. Okay. So now here's a different payoff method. Y'all have probably seen it before, but you didn't know what it was called before. So this is the Eisenson payoff method. So most people talk about two. So here's your third choice. So now we're changing the frequency of the payments. So we're either going to make a payment twice a month. We're going to take our bill, we're going to split it in half, and we're going to pay it twice a month, or we're going to pay it every 2 weeks. So let me show you what I mean by that. Okay, so if I make a payment on a bill twice a month, that means there's 12 months, right? I'm going to make 2 payments a month, right? So that means I'm going to make 24 payments total. Forgive my handwriting. So you're going to take a bill, say your minimum payment is $100 a month. You're going to divide that by 2. So you're going to pay $50 on the first payment. You're going to pay $50 on the second payment. You're going to do that twice a month, and you can time it with when you get paid. I'm going to tell you why in just a minute. The second method that you can do is you can make a payment every 2 weeks. But I know y'all like, well, Janai, that's the same thing. No, it's actually different. If you're going to make a payment every 2 weeks, you're actually going to be making 26 payments, because there's 2 months where there's actually those extra, where you have three, and not just the 2. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Does that make sense? So you're going to have 13. There's 13, because if you get, again, paid every 2 weeks, you're going to have 2 months during the year where you're going to get 3 paychecks in a month, not 2. It's the same concept here. So you'll have 13 payments, and you're going to multiply that by 2. Then you'll actually have 26 payments. So I hope that makes sense to y'all. And if you have some questions, Send them to us in the chat because I want to make sure you get it. Because if you make a payment every 2 weeks, you're actually going to make 13 payments and not 12. You're going to make 13 payments and not 12. So that means you're going to make one extra payment a month just because you're increasing your frequency. And then flip side, if you're going to make a payment twice a month, you're going to make 24 payments. But again, it's that payment frequency. The more you pay, you're going to end up paying less in interest. You're going to pay less in interest. So send me your questions if you're like, Janai, that ain't making no sense. Please explain that a little bit more. I want to make sure that you understand it. But it's all about the payment frequency. You got any questions on that, Brandy? People asking questions?
MD Girl 1975 said, what bill would this method help the most? Your house, car?
Actually, anything. It doesn't even matter which one you pick. It really doesn't matter. There isn't really a better. And so I know a lot of people who actually will use that every 2 weeks method, particularly for their mortgage, so they can have, instead of making 12 mortgage payments, they're actually going to make 13 payments. Because you've just kind of worked it into your life and your system. You don't even realize that you've been able to squeeze out of your budget a whole extra mortgage payment. So I want you to use whatever is good for you. But whatever debt, the system works. Whatever debt, the system works. Okay, so I want to give you one other debt example, and then we're going to get ready to wind it down for the night, and we'll talk about our prep for the make session. All right. So this is the fun part. You can't talk about money without doing a little bit of math. Got to do a little bit of math. All right, so on the screen, what you see are examples of 2 different debt calculator tools. So one is an app. The one to the right is an app called Debtor. And then the one to the left is actually a website, which is You Can Deal With It. That's a funny name. You can deal with it. You can deal with the debt. And so I love these apps because they can show you what happens when you pay extra towards a bill or a debt that you have. And you can run like these different scenarios. So if I pay an extra $50 a month, what's going to happen? If I pay an extra $20 a month, if I pay an extra $100 a month, like how much faster am I going to be able to pay a debt off? So don't try to figure out all that math. Let one of these calculators do that for you. So I have an example for you. So let's assume you have a $12,000 debt. Okay. Let's assume your interest rate is 9%. And right now you're making a minimum payment of $200 a month. Okay. So you're making $200 a month. If you leave it just like this, you pay this minimum payment, any idea how long it's going to take to pay this off? How long is it going to take? How many years is it going to take to pay this off? Just a guess. Pick a number. What do you think? How many years? Nope. No math. You don't get to do any math. Pick a number. You don't get to do any math. What y'all think? 5 years? Okay, 6.75 years to pay it off. And then you're going to pay a total in interest of $3,941. So you borrowed the 12, now you're going to pay about $4,000 additional dollars in interest. And it's going to take you almost 7 years to pay off $12,000. All right. So let's take this same example. Same 12,000, same 9%. But what if we say we're going to pay $300 a month? We're going to commit to $300 a month. So now it's only going to take you 4 years. 4 years. So you've chopped off over 2.5 years of payments, and you're going to pay about $3,300 in interest. $3,300. So that means you're going to save about $640 total. So you get over 2.5 years back, and you get $640 back just by making the extra payment. So that's why I want y'all to use the calculator, because it will blow your mind when you see those numbers, when you decide to pay something extra, because a lot of us have just gotten the habit of paying the minimum. So if debt-free is on your list, this is how you figure it out. And this isn't just about credit card debt. This could be for your mortgage. You know, if you're working towards retirement, if you're working towards being debt-free or whatever it is, this is how you figure out how you can make that happen. I promise you, you can make that happen. All right? Okay. Okay. So what do you need to do now? So for debt, there's a couple of things that I want you to get focused on and committed to. Number one, I want you to identify a tool. What calculator are you going to use? Which one are you going to use to help you figure out how you're going to be able to pay extra? Or what difference does it make, even if you add an extra $5 or $10? It doesn't have to be $100 like my example. So I want you to do that. The other thing that I want you to do is be committed to the process of managing your debt, not running from your debt or getting the help that you need. Because a lot of us ignore it. So no more ignoring it. We're going to get in front of it. We're going to set the goal of what we want. We're going to get really, really intentional about paying off our debt. So Brandy, I know you got to have some debt questions from people for sure. Got to have some debt questions.
Yes. This is a good one. So the method that you explained about paying off twice, paying twice, it's saying that, does that work for your mortgage payment? Because they were told by their mortgage holder that they don't recognize that method. Like, do you have to call in and pay it manually?
Okay, now that could depend upon your bank, because I know for my particular mortgage company, I split my payment and they recognize it. They apply the two payments. So I don't know if you can set it up on auto pay that way. You could pay your bill as frequently as you want to pay it. Now, as to what system they have to support that, that's the question. And you also want to be careful of if they're charging you any fees for that too. We don't want to pay the fees because some of them have fees. So if you can initiate that on your own with no fees, definitely want you to do that. What else you have over there, Brandy?
Whitney asked, if your lowest debt is 0% interest rate, would you still pay that off first?
Probably not. I might pick something else. I just want to make sure that that 0% isn't going to expire while I'm getting ready, while I'm paying off something else, because that debt isn't costing you any money. I think I would probably focus on one. Probably I'd pick another debt. And then one last debt question.
Right. Cornelia says, does making minimum payments hurt your credit score or how creditors see you?
Well, no, at a minimum, you want to do that because that's going to help your credit score by paying on time. Now, again, like we talked about these different methods, I want you to pick a particular debt, not all of them where you're going to pay extra, because it's the power of aggregating all your money together. You want to pull all that money together. So yeah, make the minimum payment on everything else and pick one bill that you're going to pay extra on. And that's it. You good on the questions? You good? You have any more? Okay, good. All right. All right. So, well, we're going to wrap up fundamentals tonight. We didn't keep y'all that long, just a little bit over an hour. Hope that tonight was extremely helpful. Again, we just want to make sure we've covered the basics, because next week we got to get focused on make. Next week we got to get focused on making money. So for those of you who are entrepreneurs or you're in the middle, you're doing a couple different things at once, more than one job, and you're pursuing something on the side, whatever you have going on, this is the perfect session for you. So begin thinking about your making money questions, your entrepreneurship questions. Also want to make sure that you pull all that together, because not just as accountants, but as entrepreneurs, we at the Never Broke Nation are going to help you walk that walk for sure. So please look at our website if you need any other materials. We're wearing our Get Thee Behind Me and our Never Broke Nation t-shirts and our books. We have a book that's $5. again, a great resource and a tool for you to help you on your money guide this year. And then homework. You're not going to have homework, but you're going to have some pre-work. So you're going to get an email from us tomorrow morning. So if you registered with us, you're going to get just something that you need to do to kind of prepare to get ready for our make session. So next week, we're focused on Make Money. Wednesday, 8 p.m., same time, we're going to send you the link the day of. You will get the link, and then we're going to continue this walk together, this community together. We appreciate your transparency. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. And please, someone's putting up a note for me in the back that I can't read. Please make sure that for all of our content, please go to Never Broke Nation. Please follow us, either Never Broke Nation or Janai. Share our content, and we would love to hear from you. Love your ideas, and let's get ready for the make session next week. Y'all have a good evening, and we'll see y'all next week. Never Broke Nation.
I didn't know you removed the Q&A, so this woman is gonna be mad because she's like, I paid my money for this too, and you haven't answered my question. Holding it for the Q&A at the end because we had a Q&A slide. We did. Well, you asked for debt questions, and her question was like, just didn't flow any of the other stuff, so I didn't just want to throw it in. She said, I'm pissed. Wow. That's why I kept saying